Here's a constructive idea from Ari Fleischer, who served in the Bush administration. Put up number 108, please. And any of you who have access to or influence in university communities would love for you to take up Ari's idea. It's so brilliant, and it speaks to what Sean was talking about. In memory, this is Ari's tweet, and I'm trying to get Ari on two-way today if he can do it. In memory of Charlie, I urge every major American university, especially the Ivy League and New England small liberal arts colleges, to invite conservative speakers to their campuses and to welcome them. Academia cannot be a no-go zone for conservatives. Charlie would welcome this. It will help heal the country. Let me just finish it. Sorry. It will help heal the country if the liberal left that dominates colleges actively reaches out and peacefully welcomes the right. Sean.
I, I have a lot of respect for Ari. He's been a mentor and a friend for most of my life, starting when I was on the Hill. Respectfully, I was a fellow at Harvard. When I showed up, I had an armed detail the entire time. They think this is not like this idea that, oh, we should just go. Number one, they don't invite us. Number two, when we go, it's an active threat.
Well,
The
but
idea that you can't go.
invite them and get the Democratic Club to sponsor them, provide whatever security is needed, form a human chain, whatever it is. But we can't just say it can't fix it. We can't say conservatives shouldn't be on campus. I think go ahead, Dan.
He was at a conservative college. He was not at Harvard.
Well, I understand, but what Ari is saying is let's end Sean's concern, rightful concern. Okay. And let's have every one of those liberal schools have someone like Charlie come with appropriate security and a warm reception so that Charlie's vision of ideas mattering, what he died doing, can be seen visibly and change the culture.
Well, yes. And I think part of that culture is one of the things we've talked about is the number of federal judges pleading for more security. Pleading. Like, Sean, we were talking about this before about why didn't Charlie Kirk have more security? Members of Congress are begging for more security because of all the death threats they're getting, right? You have these judges. The CDC was shot up. We blew past it on this show. I think we mentioned it 5 seconds, but we moved on. The culture now is such outrage. You have Planned Parenthood's being bombed, but we blow past it.
So thank you.
So, I mean, no, but my point is to say, I just come back to the rhetoric on both sides is so out of control. I retweeted last night Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, and George W. Bush. Look at their statements.
Yeah. And look at how, and I'm not singling them out except you raised them. Look at what they said about Charlie Kirk and his free speech rights before he was killed. Nothing.
Look,
nothing.
Both sides have worried about this for years. One of the things that Michelle Obama will never forgive certain people for is that they feared for Obama's life because he was seen as illegitimate. Okay? They received death threats, lots of them, right? Both sides have been using conflict and intensity to fire people up. I get it, it's politics. I love the sport. But we all know crazy people hear that stuff and think, I should do my part. Do we all not agree that crazy people hear rhetoric on cable TV?
Of course.
Everywhere?
Let me ask you a question. Hold on. I just want to test this. Look, I feel like this is one of those. Let me ask you a question, Dan. You pick the school of your choice. Any school in the country, would you feel safe walking? You name the institution. Would you walk on that campus and feel safe or unsafe? You can pick anyone you want.
Not me, but could I name certain Democrats that I'd worry if they walked on conservative campuses? I would. Sean, if Ilyar Oman went and spoke at certain colleges, do you think she'd need security?
Probably.
Yeah. Okay. Matthew, welcome in.
Morning, everyone. I'm shocked at how much this kind of resonated with me. I take in a lot of content, and my wife is asking me, why does this bother you so much? And I had a hard time explaining it. And I think, Sean, you're partially right. It is a movement that was attacked, and it's awful. But he was more than a commentator. He was more than a pundit taking pot shots at people. And of course, having a family makes it sad. It made me appreciate my family. Um, Dan and Sean, your job, you are political operatives, and Sean, your job is to make Republicans look good during bad times, and Dan, your job is to make Democrats look good during bad times. I was on once before, and Dan, I called you out for telling me that my what I was seeing wasn't real. And it had to do with the Russiagate. I'm not equating the two in any way, but I tried to convey to you when I'm told that something is true that I know is not true, or that isn't important that I know is important. It really it affects me. And you Dan, I understand the position that you're in, but when I'm constantly told, well, both sides need to take down the rhetoric, I'm like, that's not where we are as a country. And yes, I'm sure you could find college campuses where Johan Omar doesn't feel safe going in there, but we can run down the litany of people who are attacked because they are told.
Matthew,
Yes.
I'm sorry, I just got to stop you. Paul Pelosi was attacked, and the president of the United States mocked it.
Yep.
Just as I'm asking people on the left to appreciate why there's so much anger about what happened yesterday. You have to. The Speaker of the House's husband was brutally attacked, and the Republican president mocked it.
And family members of his mocked him.
And if you want to play this game, and again, I'm not directing this to you. If people want to play this game of saying it's all the left, it's decades of the left attacking conservatives on college campuses, guilty as charged. All the left not being sensitive when President Trump was almost assassinated, guilty as charged. But do not play this game, people, of saying one side has clean hands. I could give you other examples.
That's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying.
Okay, I apologize. I thought that's what you were saying.
You said kind of, and I remember this about Russiagate, and you're like, you're telling me not to believe my lying eyes type of thing, right?
Yes.
On the left, they would look you square in the eye and say January 6th, and you told me that that's peace, love, and understanding. Right? I'm not saying you, but I am not in any way, shape, or form condoning what happened. It's horrific. But just as the left does not understand why the right is outraged, the right does not understand why the left gets outraged. Both sides are so intense with it's the end of the world if they win. They have to be defeated. We have to get those scum of the earth or Hitler. I mean, just go to X, go to Truth Social. It's everywhere. Our side overlooks it, to Mark's point, and the right overlooks stuff on the other side.
Okay, here's the thing.
Sean and then Matthew.
There are examples. I don't disagree. What happened to Paul Pelosi in some of the outrage, the same thing with Josh Shapiro, the same thing with Gretchen Whitmer. I don't excuse it. I don't excuse some of the comments.
Do you excuse the president mocking Paul Pelosi?
No, we should never. I don't care if someone falls on their face by themselves. We should never, when someone is hurt, they need comfort and aid, not being mocked. So I'm not, again, I will never defend anybody who without it being deserved. But I don't want anyone to get hurt. That's not my goal. That's not what I think anyone's goal should be. But I do think that understanding there's a difference for claiming that because two sides get hurt or say stupid shit, that it's equal is not true. We on the right have been canceled, censored for decades, told that we can't go there, shut out of events, literally told that we can't take jobs. Movements happened because of this. That is not the same. And again, we're trying to go, yeah, well, you guys got someone made fun of or mocked you after a violent act on that side. This is not the same. This is a decades long problem where we are told we're not good enough. We need to apologize. We can't show up somewhere. We'll be kicked out of a place. That is not the same.
You're correct. You're
And-
correct.
And Mark, I know you weren't suggesting as much, and Dan, I know you weren't suggesting as much, but when I say that the political violence seems to exist on one side and not the other, and your response is, what about that crazy guy that was found and that attacked Paul Pelosi? I know you're not suggesting that that's the same as repeated premeditated murder against politicians, because it's not.
Well, but Matthew, we don't know the motive of the person who tried to shoot President Trump in Pennsylvania.
Why? But that's why.
Well,
why
I don't
are
know.
we sitting here a year later?
I don't know, but Donald Trump's been president for 9 months.
That's the thing, Sean.
I mean, he's had 9 months to tell us what the motive. We don't know what the motive is today. Matthew.
The fact that on the right, the immediate response was Democrats tried to kill the president when we have no idea tells you everything about the current state of the politics. We don't even know who this guy is. We don't know. He could be seeing aliens from Mars, right? We don't, or as Trump likes to say, it could be the fat guy in his basement, right? We don't know. But the knee-jerk reaction in this climate is get him. And I know that if it had happened on the left, as you guys started off this today saying, the left in the New York Times would have a blowtorch in the other direction. And what made me so goddamn depressed last night, and I shut X off and I couldn't take text from everybody here anymore, was you knew this was going to happen. You knew it. You just knew. The moment I saw Charlie Kirk, the reason I said, oh my God, is the wheel went.
Yeah.
Oh,
Matthew, I apologize if I mischaracterized what you said, but I'm pretty sure I understood the heart of it. And I agree with Sean wholeheartedly. If you watch me on anything, you know I agree with him. Decades of a pattern of abuse and discrimination and cancellation, that's, inexplicable.
You're right, Sean.
It's 100% right. But
you're right.
But if where we're headed now in the wake of Charlie's death is to ball up decades of anger and say we're going to destroy the left over this, it has to be mitigated by the left understanding. Has to be. But it also has to be mitigated by you guys, Matthew, and I say respectfully, not saying the injustice is so asymmetrical that we shouldn't pay attention to why the left's upset. That will not end well for America if that's our attitude.
Why can't we say it's asymmetrical? And why can't the left say, you know what?
Some of it's asymmetrical. The stuff Sean has said is asymmetrical. Absolutely. The media bias, asymmetrical. But
Hollywood, academia,
all asymmetrical. But you cannot say that January 6th is not asymmetrical. You cannot say convincing a large number of Republicans that the election in 2020 was stolen is not asymmetrical. These are asymmetrical too. And if you think that America's path forward is saying their injustices, the injustices that we felt are so much worse, that we're going to war over it, that's not the right path. That won't end well for America.
People tried to kill
It will not honor
Chinese.
It will not honor Charlie's memory if the path forward is their injustices are so asymmetrically worse that we're just going to kill them. Not literally, but politically. That will not end well. So you can say, you can make your faces, and again, I'm sorry to be emotional about it. You can look at me like I'm nuts, but I'm telling you, it is not right, just as it's not right for the left, including the media, to ignore 50% of the country and their feelings and their thoughts. It's wrong for you all to do it too. Just they have a point of view. I know what your point of view is about a lot of their positions, but some of their positions, like January 6th and election denialism and mocking Paul Pelosi's being attacked, some of that is legit, to say the least.
Particular problem with the fringe left that is terrifying.
I would say understand that to the left, the fringe right is terrifying. I mean, look, you roll your eyes.
I don't mean to be dismissive, and I understand that
Matthew,
I don't mean that.
Look, I have thousands of friends who work in the U.S. Capitol. Right? They tried to kill Paul Pence and Mike Pence and Nancy Pelosi. They did.
Mm-hmm.
And to the far left, and not the far left, to the left, it was over a lie to steal the election. Okay. Now, I don't want to get into a debate about this, right? But to turn around and then have literally, it was a love fest to the left. It is, you're telling me not to believe my lying eyes?
I'm not.
Matthew,
I'm
Matthew,
not saying you.
okay.
I'm not
Matthew,
saying you.
Matthew, we gotta move on. But again, I apologize, and I'll do it on behalf of Dan too. If we mischaracterized, if we read wrong things to what you said, apologize. But
No,
very grateful to you coming on.
thank you very much.
I love your tone, and I love your perseverance, and I love how strongly you feel about it. And you're speaking for tens of millions, and we always respect that. Thank you, Lisa. Welcome, and tell folks where you are, what's on your mind, please.
Columbia, Missouri. Thank you for having me. I can't hear you.
No.
We hear you. We hear
Oh,
you
there you
fine.
are. Okay. You know, I'm sorry, but you cannot run around screaming hysterically that everybody who's not a subservient little bitch for the Democrat Party is a Nazi, fascist, extremist, deplorable, threat to the country, and not expecting something horrific to happen. Paul Pelosi's attacker had BLM posters at his house. He was a random whack job. You cannot dehumanize millions of Americans and say, hey, they're a problem, they're deplorable, they're extremists for years and not have something like this happen.
Okay,
This
Lisa,
was
hold on,
inevitable.
Lisa. Let's let Dan respond, and then Sean. Dan.
So, Lisa,
This is not both sides.
Lisa, hold on.
So,
Let Dan respond.
Lisa, I agree with you, and I've said repeatedly on the show that calling Trump Hitler is absurd, right? He's not. When people
Threat
say
to the country.
So, Lisa, do Republicans say that Democrats are scum of the earth?
That's
That
not
they're-
the
that-
same.
Lisa,
That's
let
their-
Dan-
that's
Lisa,
their- hold on a
Lisa,
second.
Lisa,
Hold on,
What does
Lisa,
this government
Lisa,
do?
appreciate,
Okay.
Threats to the
Lisa,
country.
Lisa,
If-
appreciate how passionate you are, but
I
I'll let Dan
listen
respond.
because I love politics. So I listen to cable news. I listen to elected officials. I look at X, right? And
Me
what
too.
I see constantly that Democrats are destroying the soul of this country. We must stop them. Now, most people would think that means at the ballot box.
It does, mostly.
I'm getting text messages, God bless my mother and sisters, who are sending me things from the right that they want to take it out an eye for an eye. And they're like, be careful on your run in Central Park.
Well, you are in New York, but I'm not going to excuse any of that.
But the point is, both sides' rhetoric is so.
This is not both sides. This is not both sides. This is
So
not both sides.
think
You
if a-
had
Lisa,
a president,
Lisa,
Biden,
Lisa.
who was dehumanizing everybody who didn't vote for him.
I
Okay,
believe both sides
Yeah.
have gone after the other voters.
You can go after each other without saying they're a threat to the country.
But Lisa, all you're doing is seizing on one
One
very,
side.
very, very important asymmetry. The asymmetry you're citing, calling the other side Hitler, really important. No one's diminishing that, I don't believe. But there are
We are not
asymmetry.
the equivalent to the monsters who put everybody, innocent Jews in ovens just because we don't kiss Democrat Party
Okay.
ass.
All right. Thank you for coming on. Grateful to you. You speak for tens of millions. Logan, welcome in. Tell folks where you are, what's on your mind for Sean and Dan, please.
Hi, I'm in Tallahassee. I'd met Charlie a few times. I went to University of Florida. I got a picture with him right here. I do think this is a both sides issue. But I feel like the nature of how politicians talk about the other side, if you were to boil down essentially how the right talks about the left, to me, and I'm sure Dan will probably have a different thought. I feel like it can generally be boiled down to crazy. That's how the right talks about the left. They're dangerous because their ideas are crazy. When you look at how the left talks about the right, it can generally be boiled down to one or two words, pick your choosing, evil or hateful. They're dangerous because his ideas are evil, hateful, racist. And comparing those two words, I mean, which one of those two is more actionable? Which one of those is more of a call to action? We can point to Paul Pelosi, but you can point to Brett Kavanaugh. You could point to the congressional baseball shooting.
How about January 6th and election denialism? Did you point to those?
Absolutely. That was horrific. And I had stepped away from politics for the longest time because I thought that was atrocious.
Right. So
I think
again, I just there's a little repetitious, but I'll just say,
okay.
I a huge project that's immediate now, because if the left does not understand more about why Charlie was so important, we're going to have an explosion in this country because the anger is coming on the right. But you all need to do your part too. You all need to do your part too, and not just say, "Oh, January 6th, was an unfortunate, horrible day." That's an asymmetry. Dan, hold on.
I think
Sean, thoughts, Sean.
Let Dan go first. He's
Okay.
jumping.
Go ahead.
Oh, I think, I mean, again, I think both sides look at the other and say some stuff is crazy. I think both sides say the other side is evil, right? I think the way people have talked about immigrants at times has crossed from a policy debate to way more than that. I think sometimes when people talk about transgender stuff, not on this show, some people take it way more than just a policy dispute, right? And again, I go back to, it just takes one crazy person to hear a call to arms, so to speak, and say, I'm joining the army. I'm going to sacrifice myself. And it scares the hell out of people. Democrats for 8 years thought Barack Obama could get shot. And they thought, and there were attempts, someone broke into the White House once wielding a knife. I mean, it's tragic that Charlie was the one who has been killed. And I get it. And I get who he was, and I get his importance to the movement. It's heartbreaking.
Sean.
Logan, you went to, would you go to the University of Florida? Is that what you said? Let me ask you a question. Someone walked around campus with an Obama or Biden hat or T-shirt. Would they feel safe?
He's muted.
Oh, he's not muted, or he needs to unmute.
Sorry about that. Go ahead.
No doubt.
Okay. If they walked around with a red "Make America Great" hat, would they feel safe?
It's probably a little different than it was.
It's not probably, Logan,
years ago.
with all due respect.
No. What he's saying is it's not as dangerous now as it would have been 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe it's a little less dangerous now. As I said, Charlie spent his time on campuses for a reason. Conservatives are not allowed on campuses. They are shut out. They are literally not allowed, been canceled. I've had more events that you are told, sorry, we can't handle blah, 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 but they have no problem having some random leftist. You look at corporate America, where they have literally made it very clear that your views and your positions are not welcome. And if you don't adhere to a DEI woke agenda by using pronouns in your emails, you will suffer HR consequences. You look at what Hollywood, late night, the media has done. Think about Tom Cotton. He proposed an op-ed in the New York Times and people went apoplectic, fired people because you can't dare have a different voice. The big difference in this entire debate is that I have no problem listening to someone on the left. I have no problem with dissenting voices. The left will not allow people on the right to speak their mind or have a voice. So this whole argument about both sides, I can coexist with people on the left. God knows there's plenty of them. I live in Northern Virginia. But the people on the left don't want to coexist with people on the right. That is the fundamental difference. And this is the entire reason that Charlie Kirk did what he did, was to bring a voice that was missing from the dialogue. That's the difference. This isn't a both sides. We're not equal. And this idea, yes, there's violence. Yes, there's rhetoric on both sides. I have freely admit that. But the idea that we're even close to being equal, the left controls every major institution in this country and shuts out anyone on the right who has a dissenting view. Think about all of the between technology, academia, Hollywood, government, big corporate America, it's all entirely not just run by the left, but to silence the right. This is not even close to being equal.
Logan, thank you. Mallory, welcome in.
Hi. I'm so glad that I got on today because I've had a lot of feelings about all of this, and I think it's actually been really helpful to listen to Sean talk about why he's so upset. And obviously we're all upset that somebody was murdered. The gun violence in this country, the violence in general, it really shakes me up. It makes me so freaked out. I feel like I can't go to a shopping mall anymore. I'm nervous. So initially that was my first thought, but I'm happy that I'm listening to all of this to understand, because I think it is helpful, because my initial thought was there is violence on both sides. Just back in July, the Speaker of the House in Minnesota was murdered. Her husband was murdered. A state senator was murdered. They were all Democrats. There was a man who had a list of people he was trying to murder. And I was like, well, where were the prayers for those families? Because nobody on my Instagram was posting about that. They were all posting about Charlie Kirk. And I felt like, oh, it's happening on both sides. And I think it is happening on both sides in terms of violence. But I think it's been helpful to me to listen to the way that Sean described it, because, and I'm not trying to, I hope this doesn't inflame. I'm not trying to make I'm not trying to create another issue in all of this, but it reminded me of when the Black Lives Matter movement was going and people said Black Lives Matter and other people said, well, all lives matter. So to me, it almost feels like, okay, I get it. Like he's saying, hey, we're being persecuted, and somebody's responding and saying, well, we're all being persecuted. So I guess when I put it like that and I listened to Sean, I thought that makes sense. I can understand now a little bit more, even though I didn't agree with Charlie Kirk, even though I, feel like there's violence on both sides. I'm glad that I understand that more now. That being said, I live in a predominantly Republican area. I was a Republican before I went to college. I became a much stronger Republican in college. I started moving away from the party in probably 2016. Sometimes I still do vote Republican, but for the most part, I find myself solidly in the middle. And the one thing that I feel being surrounded by Republicans is the same thing Sean just said, is that nobody wants to have Republican voices. Nobody wants to hear the other side. And I feel like I'm constantly fighting that same battle, that nobody wants to hear the other side of things or why I would feel the way I feel about things. And so, I think it's just a very fascinating conversation. And I'm thankful to be able to have it. And I think it's so important that we're doing this. I don't know. It is important, I think, to remember though, that like, we need to understand why the Republicans have gotten so upset and feel like they've been silenced, because it is, in the media, in the movies, in Hollywood, and academia, I see that. And I think that does need to change. But I think Dan is also right in the sense that there is an insane amount of volatility between both parties, and it's resulting in violence on both sides. And I think that is something that we need to work towards fixing.
Mallory, thank you. Really appreciate it. Mallory, thank you. Let's bring the Taylors. Chris Taylor, guest. Mallory, thank you.